Hello everybody and welcome to another DIY video, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to replace your car's AC clutch. I'm going to be doing this on my 2011 Nissan Sentra. This is something that I've been putting off for months now. This component ended up failing back in September of last year. I ended up putting it off because it was the winter time, the AC wasn't really important. But summer's coming up now and the car is getting hot, so I need to get this fixed. If you haven't already watched my previous video on diagnosing what's wrong with your car's AC system, I might recommend you go and watch that first before you end up trying to replace the clutch, just to verify that this is the component that's actually failing on your car. You don't want to spend all the time replacing this and end up not being what's wrong with your AC. So I kind of show you guys how to diagnose your clutch properly and see if it's failing or not. So we're going to get this replaced today. The first thing we need to do is we need to get the car jacked up in the air. Before we do that, go ahead and loosen the lug nuts on the passenger side, because we are going to be taking the passenger side wheel off to get to this AC clutch. We'll then jack the car up into the air and take off the passenger wheel. Alright, so now that we got the steering wheel turned all the way to the right, we're going to go ahead and remove this piece of plastic which covers the accessory pulleys as well as the belt. In order to remove this, there's just a bunch of little plastic clips that are outlining the edge here. I've already taken a couple of them off. You just need to remove all these so we can pull this piece of plastic off to be able to get to the AC compressor. Alright, with that cover out of the way, we can see the main drive pulley here. I've actually got a modified lightweight pulley, that's why mine is red. You will most likely just have the black standard pulley that's on the car. And then you can actually start to see the AC compressor back there. In order to really get to it though, we're also going to have to remove the fender liner. I believe this is all just one continuous piece of plastic. So I'm going to see if I can just take the front portion. We'll take the clips out of it, of which I think there's a couple more. There's one sitting here. There's one up top, and then if you guys can kind of see down here, there's going to be a few Phillips screws that we'll have to remove. And then I'm going to see if I can just peel that piece of plastic fender back and just tuck it behind the wheel. And then we should be able to gain access to the compressor and the clutch. Alright, so now we have pretty easy access to the AC clutch here on the right. This is the component that we're going to be trying to replace. You'll notice when I turn the engine on that the drive pulley on the left is spinning, and with the AC on full cool and setting on max blast, you'll notice that the AC clutch on the right still isn't engaging. This is supposed to be engaging to be able to actually drive the AC compressor, but it's not because the clutch is actually worn out. So this is what we're going to have to fix today. So in order to release the clutch and the pulley, we're going to need to ease the tension off of this drive belt. In order to do that, you're going to need to back off the tensioner. So this guy right up here is your belt tensioner. There's a little 14 millimeter hex sort of nut that sits on the end of it. You can use a 14 millimeter open wrench to try and turn it clockwise, which will end up forcing the tensioner off to the left, and that'll ease the tension off the belt and allow you to slide it off. You might as well, while you're at it, replace this entire belt, because belts are pretty cheap. You can buy them for like 10 to 20 bucks. So I'm just going to take the belt off completely and replace it once I'm done with the clutch. Alright, so with that belt removed, we can begin work on actually taking this clutch off. There is what looks to be a little 10 millimeter bolt sitting here in the center. I'm going to attempt to use an impact wrench on this to see if I can break this loose. The problem is the clutch, especially because it's worn, it's just going to spin freely with that bolt. So if the impact doesn't work, I may try to put some sort of pipe wrench or something around the clutch, or might try and jam something in here to keep it from moving. So just know that removing this bolt might be difficult, but we'll see how we get on. So this clutch plate ended up being a 2-hour pain just to try and get off. Normally when you undo that center bolt, you're supposed to be able to just slide this off, but unfortunately my clutch plate was kind of rusted to the splines, I guess. So I tried using like a chisel and just going in from the side and trying to pry it off. That wasn't really working. I couldn't really fit a bearing pulley in there and then try and use the bolt that goes through the center. That didn't really work. But what ended up working for me was using a bunch of penetrating oil, spraying it there in the center, and then using a hammer to kind of tap around the center a little bit. Helped break up some of the rust on the splines. So now I've gotten it a little bit looser, and I can actually pull this off. And that reveals the pulley there. Alright, so now what we're left with is like a little snap ring. You can see like the little pucks here on the edge. And there's two holes, one here and one over here, that we need to stick a set of snap ring pliers in to be able to try and pull that snap ring out before we can actually remove the pulley. So we're going to go ahead and get our snap ring plier in there, and we're going to try and get this off. So with that snap ring removed, we should be able to just pull the pulley off by hand. If not, you can get a set of pulley pullers, but this one seems to just be able to slide off on its own. No issues there. Alright, so this large rusted out piece right here is the electromagnet. This is one of the elements that we're going to have to replace. And there's another snap ring. If you can kind of see inside there, you can see two hole locations here and here. You need to use your snap ring pliers to try and get at that and pull that snap ring out as well. And then that should free up this electromagnet and allow us to be able to pull it out. Alright, so I've got that shim out now. This one is pretty large and hefty and does require a lot of force with your snap ring puller to be able to pry it apart. And you want to make sure that you get a set of snap ring pliers that can pull pretty far apart as well. At least it looks like there was about 1.5 inches or so of distance between the two fingers here. So just make sure that you get a beefy enough set of snap ring pliers to be able to actually pry this apart. So with that off, there's going to be a clip and a little like wire retainer back here. You need to unclip the electromagnet and pull the wire out of that retainer. I've already gone ahead and done that. It's easy to do it up top on the engine bay. You can attempt to try and reach it through the side over here as well and undo this plug, but I've already got that unplugged from up top. So now with that snap ring removed and with it unplugged, we should be able to just pull on this electromagnet, and that frees it up from our compressor. So now what we need to do is reinstall the new parts that we got in the reverse order. Putting the snap ring back on once you've gotten the electromagnet installed can be really tricky. It does take quite a lot of force to pry them apart. What I was able to do was put the snap ring on just the ends of the set of pliers, and then I was able to get it to fit kind of loosely around the ring here. And I was able to use a set of flatheads and pushed both on the top and bottom simultaneously on this ring to try and force it all the way back on the collar, and then it was able to snap in place. Once you've gotten the snap ring on, you can reinstall the pulley. The pulley fitting might be pretty tight here, so what you may end up needing to do is use a mallet of some sort to be able to pound it onto the collar itself to be able to get the pulley to seat properly, and then you'll just have to reinstall the snap ring that holds the pulley on as well. Alright, to catch you guys up on where I'm at, because I kind of skipped some steps here. Basically, I've reinstalled all of the snap rings as well as the pulley, so the electromagnet and the pulley now are both secure. The next thing we need to do is we need to install the clutch, the new clutch that came with the kit. Now remember that when you are taking off your stock clutch, there's going to be a little shim that might look like this, or you may have a couple in there. It's important to hold on to these because when we install the new clutch, it needs to be shimmed properly. You see, what happens, the way this works is there's an electromagnet that pulls that clutch towards the pulley and engages it. It's important to get that clutch shim thickness correct. If the pulley's sitting too far because your shims are too thick, then you're never going to be able to engage the pulley correctly because that electromagnet's not going to be able to pull the clutch up against the pulley. And on the reverse side of things, if your shimming thickness is too little, your clutch may just sit constantly against the pulley even when it's not engaged, so your AC compressor is always going to be on. So it's important to get that shim thickness correct. So I'm just going to go and reinstall the single washer, that single shim that came in the old clutch, and hope that the thicknesses are correct. I'll be able to check it out later, and if it seems like it's not engaging correctly, I can go back and correct the shim thickness and find a different one to use. At this point, all you need to do before you can test out your new clutch is to reinstall the serpentine belt. It's really important to make sure that this belt is routed correctly around the pulleys. Here is a diagram of the routing for the 2007 to 2012 Nissan Sentra. Make sure that your belt follows this exact same pattern. You'll need to release the belt tensioner by pulling it backwards like we did earlier to give the belt enough slack to be able to reroute over the pulleys. Now we can go ahead and test out the new clutch. We want to go ahead and start the engine, and with the air conditioning turned off, you should see that the clutch is stationary. It's not engaging with the pulley and it's not rotating. This means that whenever your air conditioning isn't running, it's not going to be constantly running the compressor. This is what we want to see. Now we want to go ahead and set the air conditioning to full blast and full cold, and we should see that clutch re-engage with the pulley. This indicates that the shimming is correct and that the clutch can actually engage correctly with the pulley when the air conditioning needs to turn on. This is what we want to see from the new clutch. Alright, so the AC is now finally working. Checking the temperature, it is currently 82 degrees outside, and looking at this little thermometer that I've had sitting in the car, it is currently a very cold in fact, 63.4 degrees. The AC is working really well now. I haven't had working AC since September. I've been having to drive with the windows down. I really just hadn't gotten around to fixing it because of winter and everything. But it is really nice to finally have a car with working air conditioning again. The install went fairly smoothly. It took a little bit more time than I was expecting. I started this at about 3 in the afternoon. I didn't finish till 11. There was a couple of 1-hour breaks kind of sitting in there. So overall it took me about 4 hours. Now it shouldn't take you that long, but I got hung up trying to pull the clutch off, and a couple of the snap rings can be a little bit difficult. But again, make sure you buy a fairly beefy set of pliers, of the snap ring pliers. It should make your job a lot easier getting those off. Again, before you go replacing your AC clutch, do make sure that you verify that it's not actually working first. You don't want to go through all the trouble of replacing it and it not be the issue with your air conditioning. So just make sure that you check to see that the clutch isn't actually engaging properly. That way you know that it's the failing component. Another reason why I'm really glad that the air conditioning is finally fixed is starting within the next week, the 370Z supercharger build is going to be officially on. The first set of parts, namely the fuel pump and the fuel injectors, are getting delivered today from FedEx. I saw a notification on there, so we'll be getting the first parts for that in. Really excited for that build. I'm probably going to be posting up that video in about 2 to 3 weeks. I still have another video I want to do with this car, kind of showing the 50 things wrong with the Sentra right now. The car is getting a bit old. It's almost 10 years old, in fact. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't really maintained on it. So I'm going to post up that video. And then after that, it's all 370Z supercharger install, guys. So I'm super excited for it. If you're not a subscriber already to my channel, hit that subscribe button down below. You can follow the 370Z supercharger build. I'm going to be doing complete DIYs and reviews of the entire process, which I'm excited about because I haven't actually seen any sort of DIY videos that go in depth on the 370 in terms of installing boost. So super excited for that. I'm really pumped. I'm ready to get that build on the road. So once again, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Give this video a thumbs up. I'll see y'all in the next video. Later.